Hello. Hi, Leonard.
Hey Dana, great to see you again.
Great to see you. And I was thinking about how about a week ago I did a blog on meditation and mindfulness and why it really is a good idea to do 5 or 10 minutes a week. And I got so many good comments. I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit more about what is meditation and why is it so great, so that people understand it's not just a waste of time. And I thought, who would be good to have a conversation like that with on Zoom, on our video here today? And I thought, of course, Leonard, my good friend, who is a therapist and an author, and we have so many conversations, just the two of us. And I called and asked him if he'd like to do that, and he said yes. So, Leonard, this is Leonard Simchek. He's down in Dana Point. So, Dana, will you,
California.
pardon?
Dana Point, California.
Yes, California. Yes, I assume everybody knows, but you're right, they may not. So tell them a little bit about you, Leonard, and then I'll tell people that may not know me either a little bit about us. And then I also want to encourage, while I'm here, to remind people, please feel free to share this. Leonard and I do this just because we really want to share our messages, and it gives us great joy. And if you like it, please feel free to share it. And with that, Leonard, tell us about what you're doing, what you're up to, and all the things that you do for people down in the Dana Point area.
Well, Dana, as you know, I've been a psychotherapist for 40 years, been writing for 35 years. So really my passions in life are personal and spiritual growth, writing and speaking. So those are my passions. And my book in 2009 was The Roadmap Home, Your GPS to Inner Peace. And there I really got focused on meditation and the benefits of meditating to connect with our inner guidance system.
Yes, I knew that happened for you. And currently, what are you doing? I know you're writing a new book.
Yeah, I'm writing a couple of books, but the current book I'm finishing up with a buddy of mine is called Evolving Masculinity, a Manifesto to Help Men Thrive. It's about a new model for manhood. I believe the current model for masculinity includes a lot of toxic behaviors, and the Me Too movement has really propelled us to take a look at what it means to be a man and how can we be different in this world? So that's what I'm working on with my dear friend, Rick Bronick.
Well, and you have sent me, I've gotten the opportunity to read a couple chapters, and it is so timely. It's a great book for men and women, because at this time in the history of our country, well, the world really, because there's a Me Too movement, universal or international movement today, March, all over the country, I saw on the news. And so your topic is just fantastic, and the insights to be what it's like to be a man. I was just amazed. I think every woman will love your new book.
Well, thank you, Dana. I appreciate that. We hope that men read the books too. Women
Of course.
tend to read more books than men, so.
Of course, it's for men, but boy, is it insightful for a woman to read. So then I'm just going to tell people that may not know me. I'm Dana Beal, and I'm the author of The Extraordinary Workplace, Replacing Fear with Trust and Compassion. And I came to write that because I was a business consultant, and I worked with all kinds of businesses and every kind of industry. But it was in 1999, right before 2000, just as it was turning to the new millennium. It just dawned on me that all the advice and all the work that people were doing in all these different industries, trying to be profitable, trying to be successful, the real problem was the way people got along with each other, and that the workplace culture was so fractured and so filled with internal competition and negativity, and people were in fear. And so I wrote my book, and much of it to me was just like inspiration night after night after night that came to me from a deep inner place in me that understood more than I think I ever had before. And so I wrote my book, and I have since spoken all over the United States and Canada to all kinds of business audiences. I speak with I do a lot of work in healthcare because that's an arena that I've spent a lot of time in, and it's an area where there's a lot of pain and stress, and so I do that, and I also do executive coaching and life coaching because really you can't separate your life from coaching, or excuse me, from your daily life and your work life. You are the same person wherever you go. So that's what I do. And so together, Leonard and I have become friends, and we share so many things in common. And so, Leonard, I wanted us to discuss why we think meditation is so important. And so do you want to start with how you even got into so much?
Sure. I started meditating back in the late 70s. And I took a course and the meditation teacher said, if I meditate every day for 6 months, it would change my life. And I said, oh, sure. I was rather skeptical back then.
Yeah.
And I said, but I think I'm going to try it. But I did. I meditated every day for 6 months. And indeed, it did change my life. And in the 80s, I attended a weekend meditation seminar, very intense. And so, as you know, Dana, when we get into meditation, sometimes we go into a zone. And it was a Sunday evening, late at night, and I was driving home, but I was in the zone, just kind of calm and at peace, just totally connected. And I heard this inner voice that says, take a left turn. And I was so in the zone, I just says, okay, I took a left turn. And then my inner voice says, take a right turn. It's okay, take a right turn. And the inner voice says, go straight. And I says, I'm straight. So I did this for a series of about 20 minutes. And I says, wait a minute, how much longer? I want to get home. And then the voice says, you're almost there. I said, almost there. Anyway, as I'm driving, the voice says, it's the house right there. And there was a red brick building. I said, that's the house? The voice said, yes, that's the house. And so I turned around and I parked outside the house. And then my inner guidance says, speak to them in the house. I thought, wait a minute, I'm not going to just knock on the door and speak to them. But as soon as I had that inner message, a couple walked out of the house and walked by their car, which was parked in front. And the message said, speak to them. Well, I was too frightened back then, and so I didn't. I said, well, they got to speak to me. And they were waiting by the car as if they were waiting for somebody. They were just standing, talking, but they weren't moving. They didn't get in their car. They were just standing, talking. And it could have been I could have easily approached them, but I didn't. And then eventually they got in the car and they drove away. And then I said to myself, I felt relief that they drove away, but then I felt regret. Wow, I wonder what would have happened if I really approached them and just started a conversation. And then 2 weeks later, I was living in Sydney at the time, and I was on a train going to the Royal North Shore Hospital where I worked in the child and adolescent psychiatry department. And a man sat next to me, and I had this message, talk to him. I'll talk to him. But then I said, give me a sign. And as soon as I thought, give me a sign, he said, oh, I see you're reading the Sydney Morning Herald. Anything news? And that started the conversation. And then I said to him, I had the sense I was supposed to talk to you. And he says, well, me too. I was supposed to talk to you. And as it turned out, he was teaching meditation.
Oh, my God.
He was teaching all about meditation. And we had this great conversation about meditation and what he did and what I did. And that started me on this whole road to think, well, when we meditate, we go into this deeper place. We connect with our inner guidance system. I call it the inner GPS, the guiding power of spirit. And as we go to these deeper places, we can be guided easily and effortlessly. However, we have to move beyond the ego to be open to messages that come to us. So that started me on this whole road, and that eventually manifested into the book, The Roadmap Home, Your GPS to Inner Peace.
Wow, that is just a beautiful story. Of all the stories you and I have talked about, you haven't told me that specific one, but I totally resonate with it because that's how my book was written. And I have an inner voice that started in 1981 that I awakened in the night and was told to write everything down. So it's pretty amazing. The information, when we are not blocking it with the thoughts of the ego, there's so much inspiration, there's so much beauty, there's so much many opportunities that we would never see if we didn't listen to that inner guidance. So that's a great way to start this topic. And so I was thinking about mentioning some of the benefits, but then talk more deeply about this alignment, this inner voice. And so I listed just a few things that I think are side benefits of meditation that just anybody to start out with could discover and enjoy. And one of them is just to slow down the mind. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I work a lot with individuals with anxiety, and I use this metaphor, Dana, that there's a rotating fan, and this rotating fan is like our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we can actually slow the fan down by either looking at there's four blades. One is our thoughts, one is our senses, one is our emotions, and one is our internal breathing. And by focusing on any of the blades, we can actually slow the blade down. That's mindfulness.
That's a really good metaphor. I'm going to borrow that sometime with my audiences, my live audiences. I demonstrate to them by using a conversation, and I start slowing down my conversation to show them how when you become more meditative, everything slows down and we feel calmer.
Mm.
I also have those same synchronicities that you're talking about, and that's another benefit, that when we're meditative, then when we leave the meditation, even when we're not, deeply meditating, but we're just being mindful, have you noticed all the synchronicities and coincidences that occur?
Well, Dana, synchronicity and coincidences occur, as you know, all the time.
Right.
And when we're slowed down, we get to see them. It's as if there were flowers in front of our house. But I was too busy rushing. I didn't notice the flowers. When we slow down, we say, wow, I see roses in front of my house.
That's so true. One of the things I realized is we so often are trying to control things with our lives and our thought in our lives with our thoughts and our ideas. And 90% of what's going on we can't control anyway, probably 99%. The sun comes up every day, it rains, the grass grows, everything's going on all the time. But somehow we feel like if we can just cling on to everything and we get really busy with our thoughts, we can figure it all out. And so that adds a lot of stress, but it also blocks, to me, for what I've experienced, is it blocks some great opportunities because I just don't see them, kind of like I don't see the flowers. And if I don't see them, I don't take a chance. I don't try something new. In fact, what I tend to do when I'm in my mind, or the ego, which operates from the mind, is I keep repeating things that happened in the past. And so I think, well, that's crazy because I don't want the past to be my future. I want new, exciting adventures. So just noticing that there are opportunities around all the time. Amazing things come into our lives. So that's another benefit. We feel calmer. We're present. And how would you describe being present compared to how much
I think my definition of mindfulness is when I'm focusing right here in now, in the moment, without judgment. So mindfulness is, let's say, well, right now I'm focused on being fully present with you, without judging whether I'm doing it right or wrong, but I'm focusing right on this very moment. And that is really mindfulness. And so just focusing, bringing attention to this present moment without judgment.
Absolutely. And the without judgment is so profound because I think we're constantly judging everything and, deciding if it's good or bad, or I want it, I don't want it. And that without judgment, just to me, what it does, as I calm down, it elevates my more joyful energy. And I can appreciate what's happening right now rather than worrying about the past or being anxious about the future. So, yes, that's beautiful.
I have a question for you, Dana.
Sure.
Because, there's many different type of meditation techniques. So I'm always curious to find out what are your favorite techniques, meditation techniques that you use in your own life. I tend to use a number, but I'm curious, what are yours?
One of mine is to be near water. So I go walk by the Lake Washington here in the Seattle area, and focus on the waves and the trees and the beautiful flowers and bring myself present. And then I'm, that kind of launches me into a meditative state. Another one I do when I really can't just jump out of bed and go somewhere is I focus on my breathing. And or sometimes I have a mantra, and I have a new mantra that I've been using not only when I'm meditating, but throughout the day. And that is saying, I am soul. I am soul, because I feel like when I'm meditative and mindful and present, I am being more of my soul and less of my ego, and my ego gets in the way. But then there's a fourth thing that my audiences have been telling me about, and I finally did it. It's called Headspace, and it's an app, and it can send you a reminder every day of a 10, 15, 20-minute meditation that it's kind of semi-guided, but it helps you remember. Even when you're busy, start your day with it. Do it. You can do it throughout the day, but it's just a really nice Australian accent man that takes you there very quickly, because as much as I love meditation, I can, especially when I'm home, I can get distracted and think, oh, I should go throw in a load of laundry or do something else. And so for just throughout the day, this Headspace, and I don't get a commission, by the way. I've just finally listened to my audiences who say they love it. So,
well, the thing that strikes me though is you're really highlighting that meditation doesn't just mean we're sitting saying Om,
right?
So that we can meditate, we can put ourselves into a meditative place just by walking on the beach or walking in nature and just stilling the mind. That's part of meditation. So, sometimes exercising.
Yes.
So if I'm swimming, I'll just get caught up in the rhythm. And so that's kind of a meditative place as well. So some people are on the stationary bike and they disconnect from the television and whatever, and they're able to just kind of get into the rhythm. That's also can be very meditative.
Exactly. Because the goal really is, you said it, is to disconnect from what's going on externally and connect with the internal. And that's getting harder and harder, really, in many ways, because there are so many distractions out there, and people at work tell me all the distractions of their emails and their the internet and what's going on worldwide. It's just, such a tumultuous time in so many ways that we really, really more than ever need to connect with our inner calm, our inner guidance, our inner wisdom. So thank you for sharing that, Leonard.
And there's, I just want to, if I can just jump in, there's one other, and I think, as you know, I'm in this program called the Evolutionary Collective.
Yes.
And meditation, what I like is doing meditation with somebody else. And you and I have practiced this. So it's like you and I taking turns. What's present with you now?
Yes.
And so you're being invited to share what's present. And then there's a mutual sharing back and forth. But what's present for me is just sitting in front of my computer, looking at you, feeling calm and peace. That we don't have to do it alone. We can do it with others as well.
Yes, and I think it's very powerful, and it's been said in many ways that when two or more are joined, it actually increases the energy for both of us, for all of us, and worldwide. Many times when there's a worldwide prayer, it's felt deeply, because really what you're saying is kind of part of the last topic I wanted you and I to discuss, is when we are connecting with our inner self. And as always, Leonard, you and I somehow seem to have the same experiences and spiritual thoughts and inspirations. It's amazing how we have the synchronicity. But the collective of all the souls, the collective consciousness, I believe, is interacting all the time. And then individually, as we connect with our own soul, we help the collective. And give me your thoughts on that.
Well, Carl Jung was very much into collective unconscious, and that there is a collective unconscious. Teilhard de Chardin, a Jesuit priest, who was talking about the alpha and the omega point. So, a lot of psychology and religious leaders talked about how we are really all interconnected together. And as we become more conscious of really deepening the soul. So when if I'm meditating with somebody and we're doing this presencing, practicing, I can feel like our souls have just been connected, and it feels like I'm part of this matrix, a web. Yes. So I'm part of this whole web, which we all are. It's like a web of Christmas lights. Exactly. And if my Christmas light goes on, that influences other Christmas lights to go on, and then all of our Christmas lights start shining brighter. Yes. That's what we need to do.
Beautiful metaphor. Exactly. And so when we are meditating or being mindful and bringing ourselves present, in many ways, beyond anything we can see, we are helping the collective consciousness, but it's also, we're the beneficiary. We gain the benefits of taking that time to connect. And what my guidance has told me is, why would you go it alone? Why would you not want to be connected to all that is, to the deeper source, to the connection of all souls that are here together on the planet, and maybe even in other dimensions? I believe personally, I don't know if you share this belief, but I feel still connected with my parents that have both passed away in the last number of years. And I have had moments where I feel their presence and I hear their voices. Right after my dad died, I had just left from his house, and it was Christmas. I mean, it was New Year's, and it was I have to drive across a pass to get over to Seattle, and I didn't want to wake him up. My mom and dad wake him up too early because they don't like to get up that early, and I wanted to leave early so I could hit the pass early in the day before it got to bad weather. And my dad died 12 days later unexpectedly. Well, maybe it was perfectly planned for him. It was the way he would have wanted to go. He had a massive heart attack and died in one day, and never ever in his life had to stay all night in a hospital. But I had, on an unconscious level, I guess I wasn't aware of it, but I had this like waking dream where my dad came to me shortly after he died and said, "Don't worry about not giving me a hug goodbye. You've been hugging me all your life." And to me, that was so beautiful and so real. And I could spend all day telling you the many experiences I've had with connecting with other people on a deep level that's beyond the verbal, but it is an inner voice, and it is an inner connection to others everywhere. So whether you believe that or not, I think, Leonard, you and I would like to inspire people. There's so much within our deep knowing that we're unaware of if we're not in.
Well, it's almost like, what I think of this as I have a kind of a half of a nautilus shell by my computer, and I just hold this up. And the nautilus shell is, I use it as a metaphor that I just start going down the chambers. So deep meditation is I'm going down past my physical self, past my emotional self, past my thoughts. I'm just going deeper, like in a nautilus shell, circular, going down to the very bottom, to the very core, and there's a portal. The portal opens to the spirit world, like you did with your father. So we're able to actually move into this conscious field, spirit field, consciousness, that we all have the doors. Most of us don't access the door, but through meditation, we can actually descend enough within ourselves to get to that portal that we can move out into the conscious field.
Yes, I love that. I have a physical experience when it happens also. I feel it deeply in my heart. It's like a relaxed sensation in my heart. I imagine if your heart is, during the day just pumping along, as you relax, it's like it just opens up. Your heart just opens up. It feels so good. I think, why would I want anything else? But things happen. We have blocks, we have distractions, and we lose it. So it is, I was telling my best friend in Spokane that I grew up with, and we both have been a student of Course in Miracles forever, but I was telling her, every time something comes up that, potentially could be a worry or an upset or some kind of little storm on the horizon, just joyfully say, oh, this is wonderful. I get to practice being present and not getting drawn in, and look at it as not something negative, just one more chance to see that my internal state of being is more powerful than all the external things that are going outside of me. Would you concur?
And the important thing is, because of the many changes in the climate that we're in, our political climate in the world, it's really important for us to strengthen our cord to spirit, to strengthen our connection, so that we, even, it's like we're on a boat, and even though it may be stormy, we are able to have a very stable vessel going through stormy times. And it's really important for all of us. And I think meditation for me is my anchor. Meditation is my food, my spiritual food. And if I don't do it, and if I miss several days, it feels like I'm starving. Yes. And it's a reminder all the time, stay connected to our inner guidance system.
Yes, and you and I had talked, many times about, I work in the business world, and so sometimes I'm in the past, I've been very careful about what I say and don't say to a business audience. But I have to tell you, Leonard, lately, so many people are so hungry for more safety and security and interconnectedness that I now, whether I can be talking to surgeons, I can be talking to people that are in the military, I can be talking to people that are very scientific, I can be talking to people that are working in the service industry. Everybody at this time seems to recognize, I can't say everybody, but it feels like everyone in the audience is connecting to a deeper part of themselves. And some of the things that, maybe 10 years ago that we were afraid of, or people thought it was woo-woo, are now being practiced in the business world. And they're teaching mindfulness. I teach mindfulness all the time. And I teach work on how to deal with conflict, but I always go back to start with the conflict or pain in our own heart first. So I know that you and I get a lot of joy sharing what we both are creators of products and blogs and coaching and counseling of our ideas, and we get a lot of joy from that. But I just want to encourage anyone who's listening, there's a part of every one of us that knows we have so much more inside than we avail ourselves of. And we want to encourage, I think, if I can speak for both of us in that point, we want to.
If I can, I want to say, I've known you, we've known each other a good 10 years, Dana?
Yes, and it was synchronistic that we met at a conference.
Absolutely. And what I've known about you, and I always tell you this, is how committed I see you to this spiritual journey. So even though you've had hardships in your life, like me, you've continued to walk your talk. Even though you've had hardships, you've continued to stay on the pathway to really stay centered with spirit and stay centered with your spiritual self. So you've always inspired me. If I think, well, geez, I'm getting a bit off track, what would Dana do? She hangs in there.
That is so sweet of you. And I love that you said that, because you are the same for me, an inspiration. And so often when we call each other, we're both going through such similar things in our lives. And so it's been just such a blessing to be friends. I've also had the advantage of visiting you in Dana Point and seeing where you can walk across the street and walk along the ocean. So one of these days you'll have to come to Seattle, and I know you have other friends up here too, but you're always welcome to come up here.
I have that on my list, my to-do list.
Okay, good. Well, Leonard, we probably said a lot, and to close here, but before we do, I want people to know how they can get a hold of you and get your book, and then I also want to tell people about my website. And so, do you want to give us some information?
Sure. If people would like to find out more about me, they can go to my website, roadmaphome.com. Just roadmaphome.com. If I said my last name, leonardsimchek.com, no one would ever go to the website.
No, you're right.
It's a Polish last name, Zyncczak.
Yeah.
So just go to roadmaphome.com, and that will give you more information. There's some videos, there's resources that you can access. to your heart's content.
Wonderful. And for my audience, people that might want to talk to me, I have a website, Dana at Danabeal. No, that's my email. Just danabeal.com, DANNABEAL.com. And I have a free article about how to awaken in the workplace, that if you join my mailing list, you can get that and other things that I send out all the time. And I also do coaching, and that there's a scheduling spot on my website if anyone's interested in talking to me. And actually, there's even a free 15-minute if you'd like to talk to me on my website, where we can have an initial consultation and see if you and I might be a good fit, somebody out there. So again, it's Leonard Simchek and Dana Beal, and thank you all for watching. Bye, Leonard.
Thank you, and keep meditating.
Yes. Okay, bye.
Bye.